like, who do you understand Jesus Christ is? Harlan, right?
Harlan. Harlan. It's a bit of an
Harlan. Okay.
Yeah, I think that the Beatitudes are the best part of the Bible, actually. I think the words that Jesus said were really cool. Definitely something that everyone should make an effort to read. Pretty cool guy.
Like, besides his saints, is there anything else beyond the Beatitudes you would describe him that you know of him, that you believe of him, or you understand him to be?
Besides his teachings, not particularly. Not particularly, no.
What would you say is his main teaching, his main message, like in capsule?
Mostly one of love and forgiveness, I think.
Love and forgiveness? Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would describe it as, I think.
Okay. Now, knowing that message, I do think obviously Jesus had a big theme, a big motif of love and forgiveness in his ministry. Would you say that explains why he ended up being on the cross? I guess from that being his main life goal, main life teaching, I guess walk with me to the cross. How did that ended up being him being in the cross?
I don't know if that was necessarily the cause of it. Things could go on a different way.
Would you say the cross is a significant part of his life's message and teaching too?
Yeah, I would think so.
How is that cross fitting into the love and forgiveness theme that you said earlier is his message?
Well, the idea, of course, is that he died for everybody's sins so that they could be forgiven. However, he didn't choose to be put upon the cross. Rather, when he was not angry that that happened to him. So it's a slight distinction. It's not that he chose to have this happen to him. It's that it's something that happened to him that he does not blame anybody for.
Okay. You said earlier, did I hear correctly? Tell me about, I misheard. You said that he died for us? In some sense? Would his death come in with any way with forgiveness?
Yes, certainly. Because he did not blame humanity for nailing him to the cross.
Okay. Now, would you say you're a good person according to the standard of God, the Bible? Let's just say stick to the Ten Commandments.
Ten Commandments?
Yeah. How many of the Ten Commandments could you name? The average American can name 3. And if you need help, I'll grab the lifeline of one of the other guys.
Do not covet.
Do not covet your neighbor's
steal.
Okay, do not murder.
One
One more, you're American average.
Can I really not remember any of the other ones? I think I'd be able to, but I can't.
Okay, if I were to say, I think you'll fill in. Thou shalt not commit
Adultery.
Adultery, okay. Murder. Well, you said murder. Okay, with 3, and then don't use his name in vain.
Right, yeah.
Don't steal, also as well. Now, if I could ask you the question, Harlan, have you ever lied before?
Absolutely.
Okay, if you lied before, what does that make you, Harlan?
Somebody who has lied.
Yeah, or a liar. Or a liar, right? Have you ever stolen anything, big or small? Movies you should have paid for that you downloaded online for free, or maybe a movie you sneaked into that you didn't pay for? Songs you pirated, or...
I'm not certain that I've ever stolen anything.
Okay.
But probably.
Okay. If you have stolen something before, what does that make you if you have done that?
Somebody who has stolen something?
Or a thief? Now, this is the part I always get scared of asking someone. Have you ever committed murder before?
I have not yet killed anybody.
Okay.
To my knowledge.
Okay. If you have, well, Jesus' standard was so high. He said if you hated somebody, or even called somebody a fool, you're already in danger of hellfire. I'm sure you're familiar with this.
It's not good to hate folks.
Yeah. Have you ever hated anyone or called anyone a fool or name called?
Absolutely, yeah.
If you have done that before, what does that make you?
A hater?
Yeah, I would even say a murder at heart. Unless it's accidental manslaughter, you accidentally drive and weren't looking and hit somebody. Besides that, I would think the sin always begins with the mind first. They hate the person. Now, the other part is also use his name in vain. Have you ever stubbed your toe and then you said...
I would just say goodness. I like goodness.
Okay.
I like invoking goodness.
Okay.
I'm sure I have done so before, though.
Do you know what the Bible calls that if you've used his name in vain before?
I'm not familiar.
If you've done that, you're actually a blasphemer.
Last one, okay.
And then, have you ever had sex outside of marriage? Also?
Absolutely.
Okay. If you have done that before, you know what does the Bible call you?
Adulterer or?
Yeah, well, if it's a married person, adulterer. If it's not, then you're a fornicator.
Fornicator.
But Jesus' standard was so high, he said that if you even look at a woman with lust, you've already committed adultery in your own heart.
Yeah.
So if I could just summarize your confession to me, Harlan, is that you're a liar, a thief, a murderer at heart, a blasphemer, and adulterer / fornicator at heart or in his. If I'm doing this correctly, this should be kind of condemning that I'm judgmental towards you. Would you say there's some sense that's the case here?
No, it's quite fair.
Okay. And I would say it is in some sense condemning. But by the way, this part, I always get so scared when I say this part, people run away.
Yeah.
Those things you've done, I also want to say I've broken them also as well, Harlan. I've broken them, and I hate my own sin before I hate others, because I know myself and I think, what is the things that I want to hide from others? And those are probably things that are morally disgusting, repulsive to me, and to God, more importantly. Now, in light of all those things, would you say you're still a good person according to just 5 or 6 of the 10 commandments, and that's not even the whole commandments of God?
My qualifications for what a good person might be considered may be different than the ones laid out by the Bible.
Okay, sure. Okay, what is your standard, if I could just know?
In my philosophy, there are no morals. There are only goals and things that either act for them or against them. The only thing I actually dislike is hypocrisy, because that's people who don't know what their goals are.
Okay.
The reason I like Jesus' teaching so much is because I believe, the goals that I have for this world are in line with those teachings.
Okay. Did I hear you correctly? You said earlier, correct me if I'm wrong, I heard you said you don't believe there's absolute morality, or there's no morality?
Yeah, I only believe in goals.
Only in goals, okay. Are those goals still moral goals? Still?
Oh, that will depend from person to person.
Okay.
For me, my goals have to do with the well-being of humanity.
Okay.
That may not be the case for another person, and I would not think of them for that, although I become their opponent or enemy.
Now, would you say with that, it seems a little bit you're espousing amoralism of some sort. Was that accurate to describe?
Well,
because I don't want to misrepresent you.
No, absolutely. I don't believe in being immoral for the sake of being immoral. That has no point to me.
Okay.
But I do not think that someone should let anything be an obstacle to whatever they have decided that their goals are.
Okay. Even moral restraint.
Yeah, so like say that somebody's goal is to follow the commandments laid out in the Bible, then they should not let anything oppose them in that.
Okay.
But if somebody has a different goal than that, and it goes against something that is said in the Bible, even in a threat of hellfire, they should not let that get in the way of what they do.
Now, would you say that, in light of that, I'm really wondering, would you say that there are goals that are bad and wrong? Do such categories exist to you?
I have not been able to draw any such distinction.
Okay. So there's no such. So to you, would it be a meaningless term that's an immoral goal, that's a bad goal, a good goal, or
Yeah,
a noble
the
goal?
only time that I would say that is when somebody is not being honest with what their goals are.
Honest with
When somebody is deceiving themselves about their goals. We see this very frequently.
Okay. Because to me, what it does sound like, Harlan, is that you still sneak in moral categories, to describe things like hypocrisy and self-deception, which is a heinous thing.
Yeah. But those are much my personal aesthetics, where that I think that those
Okay,
things
so it's
are.
more aesthetic.
Yeah,
aesthetic
those are
more
my
than
aesthetics.
more ethical reality.
Yeah, because I think that the thing that's important is some of these goals. And so morality will never stand in the way of that. But self-deception will, because they will not be able to know what their goals are. They will do things which are against what they themselves.
Okay. What about, what would you say to someone that say that their goal is to impose his will upon others? Let's say an ultimate Nietzschean, that
I would not have any hatred for that person, but he would probably become an enemy.
Would you say that is a good goal to have?
I would say it's a fine goal. There's no particular distinction for me.
I'm doing that just to see if you'll be fully consistent.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, even I would go as far as to say somebody who is a murderer, I would not have any hatred to them for wanting to execute that goal. However, they may become an enemy very quickly because they might try and kill me or somebody that's close to me.
So it's more that they're interfering with your goals.
Precisely.
Okay. Are you big into Nietzsche? Because your themes sound very
Nietzsche. No, I'm not really familiar with his teachings.
Okay, maybe I just introduced some crazy ideas to you. But anyways, with that, because I do find that interesting. Because if that's the case, I also feel that if more, because I feel you do sneak in some obligatory language, like one ought not to be hypocritical, one should be honest with himself. So I hear a lot of prescriptive language still, which I say is in the realm of ethics. But then it seems like you would collapse. It seems to me that you're not saying there's no such thing as morality, but you're collapsing the aesthetics with ethics and saying that ethics is nothing more than preferential taste, matter of taste.
That's fair. The main thing I feel, at least in my worldview, is that we shouldn't hate others for what they decide to do.
Why is that? What if it's someone's goal to be as hateful as they can be?
Then I would think that person is very unfortunate, and they would probably become an enemy. But there's no natural reason for me to think they're wrong in doing that.
Okay, but you did say earlier that they shouldn't, right? Did you say that earlier? Or?
No.
Okay. But it's okay for their goal to be hateful. Now, what is the implication of these ideas for society? Do you think that?
Well, I feel that hopefully, because I said people could become my enemy.
Yeah.
And so I hope that most people choose goals that are similar to mine, which, at least in spirit, are for the benefit of society as a whole. Because my goals fall in what I feel is in that direction. I try and do things which I feel are in that direction. So if somebody was opposed to that, they could become
your enemy.
Yeah, well, I might be opposed to their
But you don't hate them.
Yeah, I will not think that they're wrong. But what I'm doing is what I believe is the best.
Okay.
And so hopefully people will come to see it.
In light of the fact that there is some sense of immorality in your worldview, is there such thing as an improper means to justify to get to the end goal?
There are things that I would not do, even if I perceived a positive outcome. Not for a moral reason, but because I feel that people operate better when certain boundaries are respected. And so to support my goals, there are many layers of things that I would not do, even if I perceived a positive outcome in terms of my goals. So there's something very similar to morality. The only thing that is removed is that it isn't natural. None of it is natural. It is all a construct, which is created for my convenience. And so that's the only really distinction, is that I won't think somebody else is wrong for having a different sort of construct.
Okay. So in light of that, and thank you for nuancing, because I see now it's not just the simplistic amoralism, but there's also more of the aspect of certain conventions are
you need something similar to morals to operate in society, because otherwise it's chaos.
Now, do you believe, I guess it all comes down to the question we began earlier. I actually think it's quite relevant, because these philosophical discussion has huge implication for how we live and breathe and live with others, etc. I would even say the question of who's Jesus is basic to that. How we answer that could determine how it goes. Do you believe Jesus Christ is God? Or there is a God?
There's something called the law of parsimony, which I subscribe to.
Jimmy, do you happen to know how much this guy's a Jehovah's Witness? I don't know a lot about the New World Translation.
Well, just ask him. Just ask him and learn. Okay, sorry about that.
Not at all. The law of parsimony is the idea that the answer which requires the fewest assumptions is the one that is correct.
Okay.
And so I do not disbelieve in God, but I do not believe in God either. Because I see a path which requires fewer assumptions to understand the universe.
Okay. Sort of a Occam's razor.
That is one of the same. Parsimony.
Okay. Now, with that, I would actually say the reason why I think every one of us do operate with an Occam's razor to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, people aren't stupid. People arrive at the conclusions they do because they're basing it on some sort of reason.
But the reason why I would not rule it out is I do feel God is inherently basic, and necessary. What in philosophy is called transcendentally necessity, in a sense, for the grounding of morality and everything else. Now, would you say if there is a God, there would be a say that if he's a creator for everything, there is a say he would have towards how to behave towards one another and how to behave? Assuming that there is a God, would you say that would dramatically change your worldview, that you have to take into account God?
If there were a God,
yes,
he would have acted against my aesthetics in many ways, and so I think he would have become an enemy by now.
Okay.
So if I did meet him, then I would have to tell him that.
If God does exist, would you say you're an enemy of his? Not necessarily. I'm not saying going back to your definition. Not that
I would say that he has gone against my aesthetics, but if there were to be a God, he would possess divinity, and so his machinations would be so far beyond my understanding that I would certainly make an effort to understand why he has done things in the way that he has done them.
What would you say for you is what needs to be occurred in order or in place for you to logically or otherwise believe there is a God of the Bible? I'm just curious.
It would be very difficult.
Basically what I'm asking for is sometimes I think Christians and non-Christians are so fast to argue with one another, the proof and non-proof, but I think we need to take a step back and ask, what is the philosophy of the evidence for you that would satisfy you? And that sometimes also need to be subject to scrutiny too, also as well. One's epistemology or philosophy of evidence to that.
It would be very difficult. I don't want to say that yet. It's hard for me to imagine a situation where God actually existing is more likely than me having gone insane. Because obviously if he appears before me and reveals himself, then that probably I've gone insane at that point.
Okay.
So it would be quite difficult because I know so many things about this world. I know so many things about this world that are so undesigned, that are so bottom up, that it would be very difficult for me to come to the conclusion that there must be a God.
Do you believe reason should be followed? Like deductive reasoning, that if the premises are true, we must.
I think for most people's goals, reason should be followed.
Okay. Do you think it's also you don't have to? Do you think there's something wrong when someone don't accept?
There are certain goals where reason is not an issue. Most of those goals lie in madness. As far as my aesthetics go, reason should certainly be followed.
Do you believe the laws of logic is reducible to aesthetics then?
No, the laws of logic exist outside of human understanding and outside of the universe.
So it's objective, in the sense that it's not dependent on us.
Yes. Okay. Aesthetics do not appeal to logic.
Okay. Why would you say that?
Because logic is just another way of representing mathematics, and mathematics certainly exists outside of.
Would you say the laws of logic, while there's some mathematical quality to it, is beyond that also as well? That logic itself is more than just abstract mathematical concept.
I'm not sure what is beyond abstract mathematical concept, so I would say no, logic is within that umbrella.
Because what I'm fascinated with is that it seems to me morality is still sneak back no matter how much it is said.
My aesthetics are close to morality.
Okay, yeah, but I would also say it seems yours collapse into morality is nothing more than preference of fashion and taste, almost.
Yeah.
So in light of that, I'm actually kind of amazed because you mentioned, because I would say the laws of logic is, yes, there's an aspect that describes the world as it is, but there's also laws of logic, the other aspect to it is also laws of thought, like we're regulating how we should think and ought not to think. For instance, logical fallacies is an improper way to come to a conclusion. In other words, there's a sense of morality still within it also as well that is imperatival in force. Like there's an obligation that when something is presented reasonably, you are obligated and you ought to believe it. In other words, there's still morality that's still within it. Do you still? What do you account for? How do you account for that? Morality is nothing more than preference.
Some people's goals do not have to do with reality.
Okay.
Some people's goals have to do with the fantasy that they construct themselves. And so for those individuals, it doesn't necessarily matter what logical reason appeal to. And so those people would not be my friends necessarily. But I would not hate them for their goals. For their matter.
Just for the sake of time, yeah, I do think those questions of Jesus is basic, inherently, properly basic to answering foundational, presuppositional to everything else, the implication. Because to me, if you ask me, what you describe, in my view, is really out of touch with the reality in the sense of it makes morality, and I would even say the laws of logic, meaningless and unintelligible in light of your view of collapsing morals to an aesthetic preference. But
So you feel that logic leads to morality and thought, or?
I think laws of morality is a subset. A law of logic is a subset of morality.
Interesting.
In the sense of there's a subset of ethics. Ethics being,
I've always
about
considered
norms
logic to be so outside, almost having the quality of divinity, to be so outside of humanity, to be so universal and beyond us that it does not.
Say something.
It doesn't have any specific applications to us.
I would say there is specific application. There is. I think it's sometimes things in life it's so basic we take it for granted about it. I mean, just even right now talking, I am not Harlan, right? And you are Harlan. Harlan is Harlan.
Yes.
A is A. The law of identity is still presupposed. Law of non-contradiction, right? When you say things, even in your speech, that you don't hate, we would say I'm wrong to extrapolate from that the opposite, the contradictory opposite, that it is okay to hate from your speech. So I think it's so basic sometimes, it's one of those things taken for granted. Like even laws of mathematics, we live every day, we pay bills without even questioning. And I would actually say what you said is so beautifully captured, Harlan. I would say it is a touch of divinity. None of us have universal experience, but yet we presuppose
through these things
in our
we're able
hearts.
to.
And I actually say it's God putting it within our hearts. Not just only outwardly the things, the law of logic is really out there true, but why is it that it's in our mind also as well? You and I would assume the law of logic applied even on the backside of Pluto.
Yes.
And even though we've never been there. So there's a universal nature of it. And I would say the universal nature requires the presupposition of the God of the Bible who created everything and comes to pretend that he made everything wisely.
But with parsimony, say that we assign this capability of self-creation or always having existed to God. Is it not just as easy to assign that quality of self-creation or always having existed to logic itself?
Yeah, sure. I would say in light of that, for Christian theology, we wouldn't say God self-created himself. He always was.
He always was, right. So that quality of always having been, can we not simply assign that to logic?
Okay. Would you, or
rather than to God?
Yeah, and this is where I guess in my theology, I would say Jesus is a logos. I know this is where, I don't know if every Christian agrees, I would say the law of nature reflects his nature. The law of logic, reflects his nature. It came from there, and that is why everything we see is logical. Morality also as well is his nature, and that's why we, I guess, see that. But for the sake of time, I do think, with this, I do think when people oftentimes, when they engage in their mind to, against God, I actually think it's because of sin, where people want to be autonomous, like they want themselves ruling, self-law. That's what autonomous means, nomos, law being law. Whereas what I hold to is theonomic, or theonomos, the law of God. The divine law. But and I do think the question of what it is, Jesus Christ came to die for our sin with that. And I think if he really did, if there is a God and everything else, then it changed everything with our whole worldview, with everything. But can I just give this to you, and I'll let you have the last say. I'll let you have the last say to anything. I have a preacher's mouth, but I'll let you have the last say.
Consider that, and the idea of parsimony, or occam tracer, is also called, which is the simpler solution, that God has this quality of always having existed, or that the universe or logic have this quality instead. For me, the answer is that logic has this quality, but you may come to different conclusions. Thank you for talking to me.
Okay, yeah. What are you majoring in, by the way?
Oh, computer science.
Computer science. Is this your first year here?
No, this is year 2.
Okay. Did you go to high school in this area originally?
No, I live in Los Angeles.
Okay. What part of LA?
I live in Silver Lake.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's
Yeah.
quite a travel.
Yeah, it takes like an hour and a half on the bus.
Have you had a Christian background yourself?
My father was Jehovah's Witness, but he is excommunicated.
Oh, okay.
So I want to mention that to him. They have excommunication and stuff, breaks up families. And my mother comes from a Christian background. Yeah.
She still goes to church.
She goes occasionally. I don't think she's very religious anymore. She has a Mexican husband, and they have their own sort of interesting Christianity. They slightly worship death, I think.
Okay. I know I said I was going to have the last say, but I have such a preacher's mouth. I talk on and on.
I don't know.
If you ever,
It matters not.
I hope the thing I gave you has the cell phone. Let me check real quick. So if you ever want to talk, or actually, I think let me give you this. Sure. And I'm right now a pastor at that church in El Monte. So if you ever just have questions, I live in Pasadena area now, not too far. So if you want to just grab a bite to eat or to talk, and even if you just happen to walk by, at least say hi.
Yeah, sure.
Harlan.
Yeah. Harlan, can I?
Your church?
True Chinese Alliance Church. I know it says Chinese. I mean, my